Do you ever have that feeling of those voices in your head that just drive you crazy and talk negatively to you? You hear voices that tell you you can't do something or you're not good enough or all of these silly things that you hear. The first time I ever heard this phrase, mind monkeys, was from my dear friend Betsy Clark, who I'm going to invite to introduce you in just a moment. And I thought it was just like a perfect description of those voices in our head that tell us that these things are just not possible and we know that they're not right. And as entrepreneurs, we have to stay on top of those mind monkeys. We've got to not feed them bananas and squash them right away because that is stopping us from moving forward. It could be in the form of imposter syndrome. It could be in the form of perfectionism. There are so many different ways that those negative thoughts can get into our head and stop us from moving forward. Betsy Clark, she is a mindset chaplain. She is a business coach. She is just a wealth of knowledge and information and positivity. And I just cannot wait to introduce you right in just a moment here. My name is Amy Iram. I'm the founder of Capitalize Social Media, and I help life and business coaches gain visibility and increase their impact using Facebook and Instagram marketing tactics that work. And I like to bring on coaches that just have an incredible wealth of knowledge to share and that will help you on your journey in entrepreneurship and in your life in general. All these different tactics that are being shared can help you in both, your journey in life and your journey in entrepreneurship. So feel free to ask your questions along the way, share your insight and your experiences with us. And we're going to look forward to this chat over the next 30 minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Betsy Clark. Yay, Betsy.
Yay, it's us. We're doing this. It's so fun. Thank you for having me on, Amy. This is cool.
Oh, I'm so glad that you agreed to be my guest. I'm so excited. And Connie's here with us too. Connie Zeller Events. I asked her to be a sponsor of our show because I know that you two are good pals from Jennifer Deep Stratton's group as well, that I met her there. And she has just done an incredible job of really staying visible and present across this territory of unknown, from doing in-person events to now virtual events. And I just wanted to show some appreciation for her and how awesome she is. And so excited for her to join us and be here today. So say hi to Connie in the comments and we'll see her around here too. So
hey,
Betsy, yeah, Connie, yay.
Hey, Connie.
She's awesome. So I'm so excited to have you here, and I cannot wait to hear all of your awesome insight and perspective into our mindset and getting out those mindset monkeys. That, like I said, it was the first time I've ever heard that phrase before, and I was just like, that is exactly what it is. It's like these things bouncing around that we just got to get out and let them loose. So just tell us a little bit more about yourself, and I can't wait to hear your stories.
Okay, so I love telling stories. I think that's how we learn. And so I have a wealth of stories. I have a great story about mind monkeys and where all of that originated. I was in Mozambique. So remind me to tell that story because it's such a great parallel of what we wrestle with day in and day out, whether it's in our personal life or in our business. And so I'm a third grader at heart. I may look like I'm 65, but I really am a third grader. And so I like to keep those things that get in our way. I want to sprinkle it with a touch of levity because we can get so intense and we can get so stuck in our head. And then we call a client or a prospect and we're just like, ugh. So when we can put some joy back into our business, into the way we think, I think it moves the needle forward. That's been one of the keys to my success, is a level of playfulness in business. And let me be very clear, I take my business very, very seriously, and I take my clients' concerns very, very seriously. And we lighten it up with a lot of humor. So I do want to tell you the story about my monkeys at some point. But how can I serve this community? What would you like to know, Amy?
I would love to hear the story about mind monkeys. I didn't know that there was like more of a story to it. So I definitely want to hear about that. Let's start with that.
Okay. So I was in Mozambique about 20 years ago, and I was with a group of people, and we'd been working for 3 weeks. We were really tired. And so we rewarded ourselves by going to a game park to go look at the animals out in the wild and really just take it in. And it was such a great opportunity. So I had my room. We were at this park. My room was beside two guys that were characters. They were both doctors, and they were smarter than all of us on this team, in their humble opinion. And so when we went to the game park, there was one thing they said: don't forget this. You've got free reign, but don't forget this one thing. Don't leave your room and leave any windows or doors open. That seems simple. I mean, if someone told me that, you know what I would do? I'd make sure my windows and my doors were closed, right? Wouldn't you, Amy? I mean,
Totally. Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we go out to this dinner and we come back at about 10 o'clock, and I hear Ed and Mark just guffawing in the hallway. Well, I don't want to miss out on a good thing. So I poke my head out my door and I say, "What's so funny?" And they said, "Come here." So I go in and I look in their room, and they had left. So one whole wall of our room was glass, and it had drapes that went from the ceiling to the floor. And there were some transom windows up above. Well, they had opened the transom windows because it was hot. We were in Mozambique. So what happened while we were gone is these monkeys came in through the transom window, and they shimmied down the drapes, and you could just see their fingerprints on the glass, which just cracked me up. So then you look on their bed, and they had been bouncing on the bed. So I immediately go, 10 little monkeys bouncing on a bed. One jumped off and, broke his
Bumped
head.
his head. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm laughing about this, but they have relieved themselves, and their droppings everywhere, all over their pillow, their bed. They'd gone through their suitcases, and they'd thrown clothes all over. I mean, it looked like it. I don't know. They had their way in this room, and it was a mess. So then we went. So the bedroom was over here, and then we went into the little vanity area, and there was a coffee service, like with a coffee maker and the coffee pods. And so there were these little creamers, those little plastic creamers with the foil on top. So these little monkeys had taken their little fingers and gone. So we look, and the monkeys have clambered back up these drapes and gone back out the window. Well, so you're thinking, okay, so that's a funny story, but what does that have to do with being a mindset chaplain? So here's the deal. Mark and Ed, by opening up the window, gave the monkeys access to their room. We have that same power and control. What we open our mind up to, the things we listen to, the things we read, the conversations we have, all that stuff are an invitation for the mind monkeys to come in and wreak havoc in our head, just like they wreaked havoc in my friend's room. But had they kept that window closed, there would never have been that opportunity. And so this may seem simplistic, but my mother, this was back in the 50s and the 60s, and soap operas were a big deal. And so for housewives, during the afternoon, these soap companies would have these novellas, right? And they were always high drama, and they were just high drama and really were fluff. And my mother said, I will never watch soap operas because it's the same as inviting people into my home. And these are people I would never have at my dinner table. And so I was raised by a woman who really was conscious about what she took in. And I think, wow, maybe that's why this story to Mozambique is so powerful for me. How are we minding our mind? Because,
Definitely.
right now we're in the middle of a quarantine, and the future is really unknown, and it's pretty unsettling. How do we plot and plan the next quarter, the next 2 quarters? What are we doing for our business in 2021? John Gordon has this great question. So the question is, what do fear and hope, he uses faith, but I think hope is a more actionable word. What do fear and hope have in common? The answer is they both believe in a future that hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
And so here's the thing. My whole premise is question your answers, because we're just asleep. We don't question what we think. We believe everything we think. Well, this is the news flash. And this is one of the tips I want women to take away. Don't believe everything you think.
Yeah.
If you took that one tip and applied that, your business and your personal life would look different in the next 6 months.
So that's such a good tip. Now, I hear that you're saying don't believe everything you think, and then I first go to, okay, well, easier said than done, right?
Right.
So what would be a way that you could flip yourself around if you're thinking something that's obviously not serving you and you want to get rid of that thought and push that to the side so you can move forward? How do you do that? What's one of your pieces of advice that you would share that would flip that around?
See, that's a great question. That's a great question. Question your answers. You've just questioned your answer. What do I do? So here's one of the first things. There are two things you can do. One is ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this is true?
Okay.
I mean, I was raised being told by a certain individual I was stupid, and that I wouldn't amount to much.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, when we're little, think about this. Have you ever seen a sidewalk that's fresh cement before it turns into concrete? And
Mm-hmm.
anything that comes in, has that makes an impression, leaves a deep impression, right?
Forever.
Well,
Yep.
well then,
Yeah.
so then all the moisture evaporates and that wet cement becomes concrete, and it is hard. It's immovable. And that's what some of our conditioning becomes. And it takes a lifetime to fill those deep impressions with the right stuff. But the things that you think and the neural pathways that you make will determine what your wet cement is filled with. Are they thoughts that will move you forward? Or are they thoughts that will keep you stuck, hesitating, self-doubting, feeling like an imposter? And I know that's a mixed metaphor, but I think it works.
Totally.
I really think it works.
I think we all can relate to that for sure. And as an entrepreneur on a journey that you're it's all the time, you're going to experience constantly challenges and things that you have to overcome, and it's inevitable. It's going to happen. There's like no way around it. I mean, in life in general, and it's just going to happen. So your ability to then be able to say, okay, here's a challenge, let me be in the right mindset to be able to overcome it and then get past it. If you're in the right mindset and you have the ability to quickly pivot and get around it, you're going to move your business forward that much faster. And that's, I think it's a skill. It's multiple skills that you need to develop over time that will allow you to be able to get through those faster and over those bumps faster, and just be able to, not let it bring you down, not let those mind monkeys make a mess of your hotel room. Like, I think
Right.
it's a great analogy. I love analogies like that. It really helps you remember it and kind of go back to, gosh, that's not what I want my life to be like. I don't want that to continue to hold me back.
So can I give you another visual? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm an artist. You know me. I paint in pictures, right?
Yeah.
So here's the so what? Because, isn't that a cute story about the mind monkeys? And isn't that a cute story about Mozambique? And it's like, how do I apply this to my world, right? So here's the wait a second. My cat has just hooked my. Don't you love it when your office mates rule the roost? I mean, like, she's completely tangled up in my headset. Okay. So imagine with me, this is how we shift our mindset, because that's all I'm talking about is, I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to delve into your past. I'm not qualified for that, but I can take my clients from where they are right now and help them reframe. And it's like
Yeah.
reframe. That's such a coachy term. That means nothing to me. So I want to give you a visual, and I don't have it with me here, unfortunately, but this is a classic example of use your imagination. So I want you to pretend that you've got a kaleidoscope, okay? And I say, put that kaleidoscope to your eye and get a visual of all those jewel tone beads in that prism with the light coming through it. It's this beautiful mosaic, right? So I want you to take a snapshot with your mind's eye of what that pattern is. Then I want you to take the end piece and turn it a quarter turn to the right. What happens?
Picture changes.
The picture
Yeah.
changes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go back a quarter turn to the left and get that original picture.
Oh, that's tough.
You can't do it. So
No.
here's the point about a mindset shift. Is that once the picture changes, once you've had the shift in your mindset, you can't go back, just like the kaleidoscope. And so that's the power of what I believe my coaching brings to the table. And I have story after story after story of women who have shifted how they view themselves by asking that all-powerful question, what evidence do I have? And what happens is I provide the evidence that they need to question their thinking and they have to question their answers. Because have you ever noticed we're blind to our blind spots?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's an irony.
It is.
And the other thing is we're blind to our brilliance because we're supposed to be humble.
Oh, yes.
So here's what I'm so passionate about is what if, as women, we showed up the right size in life, in our business and in our personal life. Instead of shrinking back, we don't have to worry about being so puffed up. We can be like Brene Brown says, we stand our sacred ground. My terminology
Love
is
her.
we're the right size. We're not too big. We're not too small. I was told my whole life, dim your light, sugar. You are too much. You are too much.
Oh,
That's a bad message. I'm dumb and I'm too much. Well, that doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence.
no.
And so I started to question my conditioning. And I'm simplistic, and like I said, I'm not a therapist or a social worker or anything like that. But to me, our conditioning is living someone else's answers for our life.
Yeah.
Oh, Betsy, you should. Amy, you should. And we end up shooting all over ourselves. Right?
It's so true. It's so
Right?
true. We've got to do it for ourselves, for sure.
We have to
Yeah.
do it for ourselves. Here's something that I love this. I just found this today. My daughter and I were talking, and my daughter is just brilliant. And we were reading The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty. And this is what she said in her blog for May 12th, which is today. It says, have you ever gotten caught up in trying to control something that you can't? If you have, maybe it's time to stop trying to fix it and instead save your own life. And
Ooh.
so the reason that's so powerful to me is there's so many of us that have been told we're the wrong size, we're too big, you're too this, you're too that, you'll never measure up, you're not enough, you're just like so-and-so, and it's not a good comparison. And we feel like we have to be fixed before we can succeed. And I think that Melody's talking about that. But here's the deal. In my humble estimation, the only thing that needs to be fixed are stray cats and dogs. You don't need to be fixed. I don't need to be fixed. What if, instead of feeling like we have to be fixed, we determine to own our stuff, welcome to humanity, It isn't about our stuff. It's about the impact. What if we just owned all the stuff that's right about us, and we put the emphasis on the right syllable and focused on that which is right instead of that which is wrong that needs to be fixed, and left that to stray cats and dogs and got about the business of doing life our ways based on our personal ground rules? Those are called boundaries.
I love it. I love it. And I love all of your sayings, the words that you use, your vocabulary is so sometimes I'm still thinking about that word that you used at the very beginning of the story that I don't know what it means. But I love it so much and I know what you're talking about. I love all of your phrases and your sayings and just I have those all like in my head constantly. And I just adore you so much. And I want to, we've got a few people watching. Connie's here. I think Angela's here. We have a few other people watching. And I just want to open up for questions. Like, what questions do you have about those mindset monkeys, about anything to do with, how to turn yourself, kind of around, or situations that you have that that you need a little bit of advice on. I want to let Betsy answer those questions live with you here. So Connie says she loves the insight. I know. I love the way that she explains things in the mind. What was that word? It was a word that means funny. We first walked into the hotel room and saw the monkeys, and I don't. It was a word that I didn't know. I'm gonna have to look that up later. I know.
Stuff just flies out of my mouth. I have no idea what the word was. I'm sorry.
Your vocabulary is.
If you do a replay, then we'll
we're gonna have to go back to that one.
We'll go to the dictionary or something. I don't know. You know what? Who knows? Amy, I make up words all the time. It could be a made up word like mopaturd or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, I think it was a real word. I'm gonna have to Google it later. Angela says, I like the concept. We do not need to be fixed. It's so true. We are perfect just the way that we are, and that we need to. The only thing we need to do is shift what happens in our mind to match what's happening, and to make sure that aligns, right?
So can I reframe that just a titch? I'm a word nerd.
Yes.
We're not perfect the way we are. I mean, like, come on, we do have some areas that need to be, that need to be polished up a little. Here's the deal. As Michael J. Fox said, I'm very careful not to confuse perfection with excellence. I can strive for excellence. Perfection is God's job. So what if even that little piece, we said, I go through life most excellently? Because you know what? At the end of the day, I really believe people are doing the best they can.
Oh, sure.
And so when we get rid of the word perfection, we're allowed to breathe. And it takes so much pressure off of us. So taking Michael's, and this is a man who has struggled with his health and hasn't hidden it. He's been transparent and vulnerable. And it has been challenging to watch him struggle with his health. And from that context, he understands he's doing it most excellently with everything that he's got. So if we can do the shift from fixed to most excellent, I think that's a cause that's worth fighting for. So not to be picky, but the word perfect is we're having our front patio done right as we speak. And I was really concerned that you're going to hear jackhammers and all of that on this call. And they put one of the stones in, and it's a little off. It's not aligned. And my husband was saying, Betsy, you love things lined up. And he said, are you going to be okay with that? And I said, I love it, because it just reminds us of our humanity. Some of us are just a little off, and we're still staying in the integrity of who we are.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Now, lastly, we're almost out of time here, but maybe you could share one of your stories. I know you take your clients from, having these, mindset challenges to helping them realize how awesome they are. And I just wanted to hear one of your stories.
Well, thank you. I have so many of these stories because I've been around the block for a while. I've been an entrepreneur for over 42 years. And the one that is one of my favorites is a woman I'll call N. And Anne was a very tentative solopreneur. So 1 foot in, 1 foot kind of not sure, like, tentative. I mean, tentative is not putting a stake in the ground and committed. And because it was all new, it was wet cement. And so she was very tentative. And after doing this work of questioning her answers and doing an assessment and really giving her hard data that was solid, it became a firm foundation. It became that concrete she could stand on all day long. She went from being a tentative solopreneur to hiring 4 employees, and her business increased 5-fold within a very short period of time. And so, that's when you understand where your power lies and what your strengths are and what's right with you, and you can see that in other people, then you become, instead of just being this well-rounded individual, you let it's like, here are your top 5 strengths and here's someone else's top 5 strengths. When you come together like this, it's like the cogs of a wheel. You can move your business so much faster than going through life like this and trying to be something that you're not. And you strangle the life out of your business. So that's really why I love that story. She came in and collaborated with 4 employees, and it was this kind of motion, and it was powerful, really powerful.
Wow, that is awesome. That's what we all need for sure. Angela says there's a Japanese concept, wabi sabi. Beauty is in the imperfection, right? Because what if we were all the same and we're all walking around like that's no fun? We've got, there's things that we have, there's our experiences that shape us. There's all sorts of different things that make us different and wonderful. And we need to embrace that. And that's ultimately why our clients enjoy us so much, because we are so unique, and we bring that and our unique experiences out to them. That's an important thing to recognize as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Great comment. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know that you are on social media, Coaches Go Social. How can our audience connect with you? Where can we find you?
Thank you for asking. So one of the things that I'm offering is a free accountability journal. If they go to my website at betsyclarkllc.com/AJ and for accountability journal, they can get a free copy of that. And it's got a bunch of exercises so that you can hold yourself accountable, because it's easier to not do something than it is to do it, especially in this time of quarantine, because no one's sitting over our shoulder looking. And so this is a great series of exercises that can help you keep momentum going. Who knows how long this is going to be going on? So why not get a jump on creating habits that move the needle forward in your business? And, they're simple, but
awesome.
they're really fruitful. So that's what I would offer. And, the other thing is I'm big on the grace card. And so if you, there's a little button you can click and says, I want a grace card, I will mail those to you, because we all need grace.
Oh, definitely. And then we can find you on Facebook, right? Facebook, and where else? You're primarily there.
LinkedIn.
You're on Instagram too.
Yep.
LinkedIn.
Yep. And
Betsy
I'm on
Clark LLC.
Instagram just as my personal page, because I need one fun, spunky outlet where it's not business focused.
Yes, I love that. Definitely, we all do, for sure. We definitely do. So good. Yay. I'm so glad that you're here. And thank you for sharing all of your stories and your insights to help us get rid of those mind monkeys. Now I know the original story of where it came from. I feel so much more educated now. Now I know where they actually came from. Now we just need to make sure that we keep them away. Follow the instructions. Close the windows. Don't let them in.
Close the windows. Don't let them in.
Close the doors. Don't, ultimately with that, we'll end with this, but I think that means that underlying kind of theme to that is that we have control of what we do, right? We can think one way. I like, always come back to that. We can put ourselves in a positive mindset as as easily as we could put ourselves in a negative mindset. And the beauty about that is we have the control to be able
Yes.
to put ourselves in either one of those positions. So why not make it a good one?
Yes.
So thank you so much, Betsy, for being with us today. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you so
I'm going to
much.
put all your links so everyone can catch up with you in the comments in the Facebook video here. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.